Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. We're going to be taking some time to go back into Bitcoin, analyzing this recent breakout that we just saw and mapping out where I believe that it's headed, at least in the short term. We're then going to be jumping into a few different charts, looking at the indices, the total market cap and the altcoin total market cap as well. This is going to give us some insight into when the altcoins are going to start breaking out as an entirety and how much higher the rest of the market can go over the next few weeks. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, here we are to start off today's video, and we're going to be talking a little bit about Bitcoin, jumping into the shorter time frames, and then we're going to go ahead and get into some of these other charts. Now right off the bat guys, if you haven't been following along with us, what we've been watching for has been this breakout above the $31,000 and $32,000 region. We've been waiting and wondering whether or not we were going to truly break out of that, but we knew that if we did get a breakout above it, that was going to give us much more upside ahead. And I still believe that that's the case. We're currently consolidating outside of resistance, above support, into new support, and I do believe that this is just waiting for further continuation. Now, when we're in the shorter time frames, the question then comes, are we going to instantly start going up, or are we going to have some corrective period before we end up making that high? And to be honest, I don't really know the answer to that. We're just going to have to watch and see. But I do think that the smartest thing we could do is have buy orders set if we're trying to either go long on this market. If we did get a potential retest, or even just a move back down to 32,863, I think that could be a level to watch for us to start going back up. But anytime you see the market pulling back down in here, and whether it's correcting off here or whether we come back down to the prior highs of the 31 and 32K region, then at that point I think that that's a buying opportunity. The length of consolidation that we spent being 200 days inside of this range, for us to break out, if we do see a retest of that level, I don't think that that's anything but a good opportunity for getting in, and that's kind of the way that I'm going to be viewing the market. Now, if I'm looking down here at an Elliott wave count, I do see this as a wave 1, and we're currently inside of wave 3. I think wave 3 will take us a little bit higher, but overall, we still have some more upside to come. This looks like a subwave of wave 1. This looks like a wave 3 and a potential wave 4 in here. Whether we go a little bit lower or not, that doesn't really matter. But overall, I still think that we've got at least one more impulse coming before our big picture wave 3 is done and before we can go into a wave 4 and wave 5. Because big picture, we know that what we're looking at is a run upwards of about $40,000 to $50,000 per Bitcoin. And I still think that our Elliott wave count and all of the technicals are lining up with that. Nothing has really changed. What we're going to be watching for is once this impulse wave starts to get extended, once we actually do get into this wave 5 and start rallying upwards of 40, 45, and 50K per Bitcoin, that's going to be a point where we're going to be wanting to look at profit taking. That's going to be a point where if you've made any money on this initial run up, you do want to be able to take some of that off the table. Whether that's your initial entry or whether it's even more than that, it really doesn't matter that much. The big thing is understanding that, if you did make a lot of money up, especially if you were buying over here right before this breakout, it could be an opportunity to lock some away. It could be an opportunity to, get your initial off the table and just look to do a little bit of profit taking. If your whole goal is the long-term trend, by all means do your thing. I'm just letting you guys know that we'll probably be expecting a decent sized correction at that point. And so when we're watching these things, Bitcoin to me still looks like it's got more upside. When we're jumping into the total market cap, I think that all of these are also pointing towards more upside as well. Because when we're looking at Bitcoin, Bitcoin's basically led the charge, right? We've seen Bitcoin leading this entire move. Altcoins have underperformed. And Bitcoin is currently sitting, not very far off that next major leg up and these higher resistance levels that I've been targeting. So if we're not that far off, and we're seeing the total market cap kind of lagging down in here, I think it's to be expected that in the same way altcoins lag every cycle, they're probably going to continue to see more of that. Now, if Bitcoin runs all the way up to the top of this lower high, Most likely the total market cap is going to end up topping a little bit short of that. I still think that the total is going to make a big run up here. I think that we're going to probably go to at least 1.8 trillion, and I'm not writing off the potential that we follow Bitcoin completely and make a run all the way up to the top of the lower high, and that would give us about 2.15 trillion. So when we're looking at this, right now, we're currently sitting right at the range highs, right? This was the range highs that we had in here when we're consolidating basically around April to the beginning of the summer. Now, during this period, as long as we can hold support up in here, which don't be surprised if it's kind of choppy, anytime we're consolidating right at the all-time highs, you know, you can get a little bit of some selling candles in here, but oftentimes these are going to end up breaking bullish. And so seeing this break bullish for us to actually clear these range highs, in my opinion, that is the confirmation for the total market cap that this thing's going to go much higher. Because when we're looking at the total market cap, we got to keep in mind that this did make a lower low in the price, and so this can't be a one-wave impulse like we've been drawing it with Ethereum. This has to be a little bit different. So our real one-wave impulse is coming right here. We saw 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we did see an A, B, C correction right here. It's just that wave C didn't really end up going below wave A. So we did finish our first impulse, right? This is just a wave 1 impulse. And so what we're getting ready for next is a wave 3. And this is why I believe that wave 3 is going to end up taking us to at least 2.16 trillion, and before we end up seeing a bigger correction. And then it's going to be interesting to see how the next impulses factor in, because this wave 3 could actually take us into new all-time highs. It might take, you know, some time until the end of the year 2024 or even into 2025 before we get that move. But this wave 3 could really be taking us into a much greater impulse, right? All we know is that we finished a wave 1, right? Inside of a wave 1, inside of any impulse for that matter, you're going to have 3 impulse waves. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? Those are our 3 sets of impulse waves. Now, we finished our correction, being the ABC. That completes our first set of impulse waves, right? Our first set of 3 of 3. Now we get a new set of those, right? We're going to have wave 1, we're going to have wave 3, and then we're going to have wave 5 of 3. And then we'll do another one of these type of ABC corrections. That'll be our wave 4. And then we still have another wave 5 to go after that. So if we're looking at this being a big picture count, we could be looking at this big picture wave 3, you know, lasting all the way up until 2025. And then we could see wave 5, you know, being really just in 2025, because that's kind of the way that our Elliott waves have lined up to this point, right? Our wave 1 in the last cycle looked pretty similar to what we're seeing today. A big wave 1, consolidated sideways. Wave 3 is the one that took us into new all-time highs. Wave 4 corrected here. And then our wave 5, although it wasn't quite as impulsive as many, including myself, would have thought, it still was, you know, your normal wave 5. Wave 5 and wave 1 were, you know, pretty close to being the same size. But this is kind of what our Elliott wave count looked like last cycle. So if we're looking at this, having completed a wave 1 impulse, then we're probably going to end up following a much more closely related pattern to what we saw in that last cycle. Now, the reason why I'm telling you guys that it's an important time to be looking for the long term, and really why it's been an important time, is because once wave 3 kicks off, that's really where the exciting part of the bull run happens. This is where altcoins are going to really shine. Anytime we're getting past those prior all-time highs of the last cycle. And so that's why I think that now is a really important opportunity that we watch, because even though I think that this is going to take a while, you know, this points to us having a new all-time high sometime summer of 2024. I think that's possible, but I still think it's going to take a little bit more time than even this. You know, most likely what we're looking at is a cycle top at the end of the year 2025. That's where our cycle top's supposed to be. So we don't know exactly how the impulse is going to line up, how long it's going to take inside of each correction and all of that. The point I'm trying to make here is we do have, you know, the next fun part of our impulses starting up. And that's kind of why I've been drawing us going up to the top of this lower high, is because inside of a wave 3 impulse, it's going to be generally your most parabolic, your most impulsive type of Elliott wave. And so when we're looking at that, it's important to understand all of these things, because we did just finish wave 1. Now that we're finished with wave 1, it should get much more impulsive from here, just based off of how general Elliott wave theory rule works. Now, when we're looking at the total altcoin market cap, in my opinion, it's all pretty much the exact same setup. Nothing is changing. With the total altcoin market cap, we never made a lower low though, right? When we're looking at the total market cap, this did make a lower low, so our only impulse that we can go off of is this one right here. We finished a wave 1. Now what I find interesting about the altcoins over here is the fact that they have 2 impulse waves already. They had this wave 1 here, 5 waves up, ABC back down, right? So then we finished a wave 1 here, and then we got another wave 1 right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Move that over. We finished another one. We got another ABC correction, right? So same sort of setup. You know, our most recent impulse for both of these was the same. This impulse was the same. This impulse was the same. But the difference was altcoins bottomed in June, right? Altcoins got their peak low, not all of them, but the majority of them. Keep in mind that this is the total market cap of altcoins. They never made a lower low. So what we're looking at here is a higher high. This has to be an impulse because we can see clear impulse waves and a clear ABC correction on the way down. So when we're looking at this, we have what's called stacking one waves, right? So when I was talking about our wave count over here, I was talking about how we more or less just have a wave 1 and we're going into a wave 3. Right? Now, in the altcoins, they're doing something a little bit different. We have our wave 1, we had our wave 2, and we're currently inside of wave 3 right now. And so this has to be a subwave, wave 1 of 2, wave 2 of 2. We're getting ready for wave 3 of 3, wave 3 of 4, and then wave 5 of 3. So we're inside of a wave 3 already. When the total market cap, it's only finishing out its wave 1. It finished wave 1 here. We're getting ready for wave 3. The total market cap for the altcoins is just inside of wave 3 already. So they've already finished wave 1. This is subwave, wave 1 of 3. We need to get next is wave 3 of 3, and then wave 5 of 3, and then that will complete our next big picture impulse. So things are a little bit different, but it doesn't really change anything. One of the things I find interesting is the fact that the altcoins have held support. They have maintained higher highs, and their peak low of the bear market was June, right? So Bitcoin with the FTX collapse made this lower low. Altcoins, including Ethereum and many of the top ones, bottomed over here in June, whereas Bitcoin made one more final lower low in here. And so it's interesting to see how the cycles have changed, how they're differing going into this next bull run. I can't tell you exactly what it means. All I can share with you guys is what the big picture is looking like. And it doesn't matter what the Elliott wave count is, both of these are going upwards of their lower high. Altcoins have always lagged, and that's ultimately what we're seeing right now. Nothing has changed in that way. The big thing that we're watching with altcoins is the fact that they never really made a lower low going into the FTX collapse, right? So this was an impulse and this was an impulse. Now the altcoins are breaking out of all descending resistance and they're getting ready to start making a much bigger move to the upside, in my opinion. I think that as long as we can get above 680 billion in total market cap, which is basically right here, once we can get above that range high, we don't really have any resistance until pretty much this level being 970 billion, or this level up here being 120 to 125 billion. Those are our two next resistance levels for the altcoins. And I do believe that if we're going to see Bitcoin make a run up to this high, don't be caught off guard when the altcoins end up doing something relatively close. It doesn't have to go all the way up. We might see them top out a little bit early. But regardless, I do think that we're getting ready for a much bigger move to the upside. And we've spent a long time inside of this range. You know, 500 days inside of an accumulation bottom is plenty of time needed for an expansive higher high, and I think that that's ultimately what we're seeing right now. Because we're outside of descending resistance in these shorter time frames, indicated right here, that's the confirmation that we really needed, and it could end up being deviation right here and go back down, but I'm honestly not anticipating it considering the strength Bitcoin's having, breaking out and making such big impulses. Now, when we're looking at the final chart for today, I wanted to take time to actually analyze the Bitcoin dominance because this is a very important chart. What we were looking at last time we talked about this was how all we're really doing was consolidating on top of the prior highs inside of this bull flag formation, and I was drawing that we were most likely going to be making another new impulse, and so far that's exactly what we've done. We've seen the market going up, we've seen Bitcoin outperforming altcoins, and now we're kind of into this territory that I was anticipating us going into. And so now that we're here, you know, we have to look at a couple different levels. We're really close to that all-time descending resistance, and I think that that's going to be the most important thing to be watching, but I really will not be surprised if in the same sort of way we made this fake out in the last cycle, because we did this sort of setup over here where we were consolidating below descending resistance, and then we had kind of this fake breakout. Altcoins ended up, this was the top of the altcoin cycle. This was the top of the Bitcoin cycle, faked out, and then we went right back below and started making lower lows. So don't be caught off guard if we end up seeing something kind of like that, where we're getting up here to this resistance, and we might make some blow off top that gets a little bit outside of this descending resistance, right? Could do something like this. But regardless, we don't want to see that thing ending up holding in any sort of way. And I do believe that this is going to end up breaking down long term, because I don't think anything changes on the big picture. The more altcoins that are around, the more dominance that they're going to be sucking from Bitcoin. But I will say that the higher that this goes, the bigger the upside opportunity it is for altcoins as a whole going into the next bull run. Because part of the reason 2017 was so profitable is because Bitcoin dominance was sitting here 97, 96%, right? So Bitcoin almost owned the entire market. And then it went from 97% all the way down to 36%. And it was because of the fact we had so much dominance in Bitcoin that we had the amount of upside that we did once altcoins kind of shifted, once the money trickled into those markets. So when we're looking at this, you know, if Bitcoin comes all the way up here to 55 to even 60% dominance, even though that will really suck out all of the profit and momentum out of the altcoins in the short term, understand that it's just got more room to fall to the downside. And if we're ending up topping around 60%, and we make a lower low like I am anticipating us, like what we did in 2017, we're going to be ending out somewhere between 20 and 10% dominance. And that's a huge, huge, huge move to the downside if we end up falling from 60%. So understand that it would end up creating a very similar type of bull run, a big type of, you know, accumulation inside of the altcoins, because of the fact there would be so much dominance back into Bitcoin. For us to fall all the way back down to 20 and 10% dominance, that's a massive move that can only compare to 2017, and it would actually make our last cycle look like, you know, teeny tiny in comparison. So when we're looking at these things, it's important that we're factoring in all of this stuff. We took a time to look at the total market cap. Understand, guys, that this is breaking out. This is looking exceptionally bullish, and I do expect that we're going to see a lot more upside potential and gains happening inside of these altcoins. But understand that with Bitcoin dominance, you know, looking like it's ready to make its topping point, understand that all of this stuff is pointing towards more upside. Bitcoin looks like it's going to end up sucking more momentum out into the altcoins as we make this final high up. Whether we top at 40K, whether we go all the way up to 48,500, I think the altcoins are going to lag throughout this period, and it won't be until relatively close to the top that we start to see those altcoins pick back up. Who knows? Maybe even it takes Bitcoin going all the way up here and then starting to go into some distribution period before a deeper correction, that's where we start to see altcoins take off. We never really know, but one thing is for certain, and that's Bitcoin dominance is in kind of a short-term price discovery, looking very strong, and Bitcoin is currently outside of resistance. While even though the altcoins are outside of short-term descending resistance, they're still well below their all-time highs. They're still well below their range highs, being here, here, and even here. So until we start getting above those, I'm not anticipating too much markup from the altcoins. You know, they're going to lag behind Bitcoin. They'll probably make this next move, going back up to those range highs right as the time Bitcoin is getting relatively closer to 40 and 50K. That's where we would probably want to be rotating. But if you're looking for where the momentum is, it's all in Bitcoin right now, and we're going to expect to kind of follow it. And we're going to expect to really see it doing its thing. So anyways, guys, this is the video I had for you. If you liked it, if you found value in it, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these updates. If you guys want to see how I'm investing, what I'm putting my money into, what I'm watching, what I'm looking at, links are in the description to go ahead and check out my website. All of my signals are going to be provided inside of Discord. So if you guys want to be able to follow what I'm doing, you got to get private access to my group. Links are in the description to go ahead and do that. Thank you guys so much for the support. For anybody that's been around, for anybody that's maintained the courses, for anybody that's been around, for anybody that's maintained the ups and downs of the cycles, you know, congratulations for making it this far. We're seeing the market really breaking out, going head first into a new 4-year cycle. And it's something I've expected because I've been through these cycles enough to understand this is now my 3rd cycle. And so for anybody that maybe this is your 1st or 2nd, maybe a 3rd or 4th cycle as well, understand that, you know, the hard part's over. Now is just the long-term game where we need to continue to focus to our long-term portfolios, continue to build a solid backing inside of that, and then look to hold long-term, because the majority of the time, as long as we're holding long-term, we're going to make more money, and I'm just excited. And I'm just excited to see you guys here a part of it. You know, this is an exciting opportunity. I think much bigger than prior cycles. Like I stated, guys, if we end up seeing something like this playing out for the Bitcoin dominance, this is a huge, huge opportunity for the long term, and probably the last great bull run that we're going to see for crypto. I'm not saying that we can't have another one of these smaller ones, but when we're talking in terms of how big 2017 was, how big this current cycle is, I really think that we should do our best by focusing in on this, doing as much long-term investing that we can, because we only may have one more opportunity to really hit it big, and this will be the easiest opportunity of all to make that happen. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.